guys, welcome back to another video. Today I seen a post on Facebook about a woman with her loom asking if there was any tutorials for the Criss Cross Stitch pattern on the yarn loom. So I decided to go ahead and make one for you guys real quick. So this yarn right here is the Be Cozy yarn by becozy.net. I do have a 10% off coupon code. I'll put it up here somewhere in the video, and it is otter10 at becozy.net, and you just use that and it'll give you 10% off your purchase. Okay, this yarn is really great. I mean, you can use any yarn, Hobby Lobby, Michaels, whatever. This is just what I'm going to be using today, and this color is pink. Yeah, it's the color pink, but it's a lot more it's very bright in person. The camera doesn't quite pick it up. So yeah, grab your loom and your yarn and let's get started. So this is actually my first purchase from Be Cozy Yarn, and I do really like their yarn. It's pretty fluffy, it's really soft. A lot of the times when you get like yarn from Amazon or whatever, they vacuum seal the yarn and it causes the yarn to be like a little flat. Be Cozy Yarn didn't do that at all, so it just came in the bag and in one big box for my entire order. But be on the lookout for my next tutorial because I will be doing a watermelon blanket with this bright pink yarn. Okay, so I'm gonna get my yarn holder. To start off, we're gonna make a slip knot like so. Okay, you have your tail end on the left and your working end on the right. For this pattern, you want to use an odd number of pegs. Well, let's go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'm going to do the 11th peg. Okay? So you're putting that on. But when I first did my video for cast on, I kind of just started casting on and this stitch was a little loose. So today I'm going to show you guys how to fix that. You put on your slip knot and then you're going to take your working yarn and stick it up and under and pull a loop through your slip stitch, okay? And then we're going to cast on. I keep my yarn up top and I make a loop at the bottom and I take it all the way over to the next peg right here and push yarn down like so, and that has made the next stitch over the peg. And you're going to repeat that all the way down. Like I said, I do have a beginner's tutorial if you guys want to check that out. The only thing that's different is this first loop to make it more secure. My neighbors are having a pool party, so I do apologize if you can hear them. Okay, so we are coming up on the last stitch. This is the second to last, we're gonna finish that stitch and then pull it through like so, and then we're just gonna push it up and over that last one. And then I like to push everything down and make sure it's nice and tidy. Okay? This first row, working from the right to the left, is just going to be a knit. You want to keep your stitches a little bit looser here because you will be crossing these over. This is about what I have, okay? You can tighten it just a little bit if it makes you feel uncomfortable, and maybe just kind of get a feel after the next row and see how loose you guys like to make them. So I am just knitting down to the end of the row. and you will be skipping your first stitch. So when you knit your last stitch, you're going to pull it through like this, and your working yarn should be coming out on the left hand side. You're going to take that working yarn and put it in between your last peg and the second to last peg, and then put this loop back on. So now when we knit, we're just going to start knitting on the second peg. Okay, so now we have our first peg, second peg, third peg. We are skipping this first one, which is why the yarn is in between, and we're going to start on this one and this one. To do that, you have to take off both loops. And I know that seems a little scary because we have the loom so we don't drop loops, and so our loops are consistent, right? So what we're going to be doing is knitting the one on the right first, and then the one on the left is going to go second. So you can keep your fingers in it like this if you want to. I put my thumb in this one and my two fingers in this one, like so, and then I grab my working yarn and I pull it through the second stitch. So you pull it through the second stitch and then you put it on the second peg. Your working yarn should be right here, and you still have that skipped one. So you go in it and you pull your yarn through. You want to make sure that your yarn is coming from this direction, and then you put it on the peg. Okay? We're going to do that again. You have these next two stitches. You're going to take off both. I put the first one on my thumb and the second one on my forefinger, and then I stick in my second finger to grab the yarn, and then I pull it through and put it on the first peg, just like that. And then I go into this one and I pull up a loop. Okay, this is how it should be looking. Again, the next set. Make sure that your stitches are not too tight, and you'll notice if they're too tight on the next row when you're trying to crisscross them. Okay, next two. And now we are coming up to the last two. Take it off, and this one off. You're taking your last stitch and bringing it over first, putting it on, and then you see how the yarn is already in between these two pegs? That's where we're trying to keep it. So we're going to knit and pull up your loop and put it on, keeping the yarn in between these two pegs. Okay, so now we're going to be working from right to left doing the crisscross. So you're skipping this first stitch here, and I stick my middle finger in this first one and my forefinger in the second one. Okay, and then you're going to grab your working yarn. Instead, on this row, we're knitting this stitch first, this one second. So I stick my thumb and forefinger in here, grab the yarn, pull it through, and put it on the next peg over. Still have this yarn on my finger, and then I do the same thing, being sure to keep the working yarn coming from the left. All right, the next set. If you're having trouble putting these stitches on or reaching, then your tension is too tight and you need to make your loops just a little bit looser. Okay, next two, 1, 2, knitting the one on the left first and putting it on the peg, and now we're knitting the second one and putting it on the next peg. Again, 1 and 2, knitting the second one, and now I'll knit the first one. And last two, 1 and 2, I'll knit the one on the left first and the one on the right second. And you can see the slight crisscross pattern. It will become more apparent the farther we go on. Okay, so see how my yarn is coming from the outside now? If this happens to you because you're not paying attention, all you have to do is slip off this last stitch and bring the yarn in between the two and put that stitch right back on, and then you're ready to go down the row, okay? Alright, so now we're gonna be repeating the very first crisscross stitch row that we did. So I'll be using my thumb and forefinger to hold the stitches. I have my first stitch and my second stitch, and I'm going to knit the second stitch first. And the next one. If you feel like it's too loose, just pull on your working yarn a little bit to tighten that up. Again. This is such a beautiful pattern. I've seen it used a lot for pillows. It is a very dense stitch also, so it's really thick. Okay, and the last two. And my last stitch, keeping my yarn in between the two pegs. Okay, so that is row 3 completed, and I'll go ahead and do a few more rows, get it nice and big for you, and then I'll show you guys how to cast off. Okay guys, so this is what we have made. I only have this little bit of yarn left, and so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to cast off. This is how big our swatch is. The pattern is pretty simple once you have your tension down, because you don't want it to be too tight, and obviously you don't want it to be too loose either. It's very dense, very thick. This is what it looks like on the back. It's just such a lovely pattern, and I hope that you guys can see it pretty well in the pink. Okay, so to cast off, you want about at least three lengths of your work. I always do 3, so here's 1 length, 2 lengths, and 3 lengths. So you want about this much yarn for this size. Okay, so since we're casting off, I'm going to go ahead and cast off using the knit 2 together method. Okay, so you take off your first stitch and your second stitch, and you're going to feed your yarn through both stitches. When you're casting off, you want it to be a little bit looser. You want it to be looser like how you did for your cast on edge. So this is about the size of my loops, okay? And then you're going to take your next stitch that's on your loom and take it off and put your 2 fingers through it, and then you're going to knit 2 together. And pull up a loop. Take your next stitch, put it on, knit 2 together. And the next. Knit 2 together, pull up a loop, knit 2 together. Knit 2 together, pull up a loop, okay, and on the last one, pick it up and knit 2 together, pull up a loop, and then you're going to take your working yarn, you're going to take your yarn and snip it, leaving about a 6-inch tail. Here is your loop, and you're just going to pull it through like this and then cinch it tight. And then you are going to sew in your ends however you like to do. I just kind of like to tuck mine in and out through the back, and then I'll burn it in on the edge. Okay guys, that's how you make the Criss Cross Stitch pattern on the Jumbo Yarn Loom. I hope that you found this tutorial useful. If you did, go ahead and leave a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks guys, I'll see you in the next one.